Good morning. The time being 1 a.m. Meeting for the Gladstone Retail Council Tuesday the 5th of May 2026. The first item on the agenda is apologies. We have no apologies as all councillors are present. So we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is messages of condolence. Councillors, do we have any messages of condolence? I have a message of condolence. I'd like to move singing from Noonan.
Mr. Mayor, it's just a
Thomas
bit difficult.
Lawrence Noonan.
A little bit difficult to
Sorry?
hear you. It's just a little bit difficult to hear you.
You just asked that before it was okay to hear, and everyone said it was fine. So hang on, won't be a second. I'll just pause, take these headphones out.
Okay, the mayor's back. We're just in messages of condolences. There's now one. Councillor Cameron has a message of condolences. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm back. Can you hear me better now?
Perfect. Yeah, we.
Perfect. Lovely.
Councillor Chris Cameron has a message of condolence, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I was getting to that. Can I come to that first, please? Thank you. Sorry, I did check.
Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, it's actually a message of condolence to my own family. My father, Bruce, passed away on the 24th of April, aged 99. He's 18 weeks off 100 years. You know, a fabulous innings. It wasn't unexpected. But he leaves behind quite a grateful family. He will be laid to rest at the Austinville Cemetery, Northern Rivers of New South Wales. That's where the family started, up that way, and he will be laid with my mother in that cemetery together. So yeah, a long life, well lived. He will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Sorry about that. I should not use earbuds. They don't work very well. I was also going to pass on our sincere condolences to Councillor Cameron on the passing of his father, Bruce, as well. And the other message of condolence is Thomas Lawrence Noonan. Tom Noonan, as everyone knew, he was born on the 5th of December 1946 and passed away recently on the 13th of April 2026, aged 79 years. For those who don't know, Tom was a very well-known, well-respected local businessman. His family are in business as well in Gladstone. He owned and operated the professionals real estate for many years, and very much an entrepreneur and very much a supporter of small business and local people in the Gladstone region. He has 3 children, Sean, Randall and Leanne, and survived by those 3 children, their partners and their children. And of course, he now joins his beautiful wife, Ian. May he rest in peace. I'd now like to, is there any other messages of condolence, councillors? No other messages of condolence. I'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is prior notifications of conflicts of interest. Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, Councillor Leanne Patrick, advise that I have a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item G 4.1, consideration of DA 1008/2014, preliminary approval and variation to the planning scheme for Kirkwood Road Bulky Goods Precinct, and item G 4.2, consideration of development application DA 54/2025, material change of use for shops and in brackets supermarket as part of Forest Springs Bulky Good Precinct. These agenda items relate to proposed developments or development that is in close proximity to my husband Nathan Patrick's business, McDonald's Kirkwood, which may result in a perceived or actual financial impact on his business interests in accordance with my obligations under the Local Government Act, and in the interest of transparency and maintaining public trust, I will leave the meeting room for consideration of agenda item G 4.1 and G 4.2.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Do we have any other conflicts of interest?
Councillor McClintock
No, sir.
also.
Thank you, Councillor McClintock.
I, Councillor Simon McClintock, have a prescribed conflict of interest in relation to agenda item 4.4, Regional Arts Development Fund Round 2 25-26, as my sister, Kellyanne Jackson, is a funding applicant for RADF Round 2. Accordingly, I will leave the room whilst the agenda item is considered.
Thank you, and that's both very fair, reasonable conflicts. You should leave the room for both of you. Thank you very much. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the Mayor's statement. And of course, first I want to acknowledge 10 years of Gladstone Headspace and thank Councillors McClintock, Patrick, Churchill and Muscat for attending that event to celebrate and acknowledge the good work that Headspace have done in the Gladstone region over 10 years. I can't believe it's been 10 years since they're operating there in their office just up the road from the council chambers and now into their new fantastic facility just down the road in Gundoon Street as well. Of course, we also had Anzac Day services across the Gladstone region on the 25th of April. And on the weekend just recently, we celebrated and acknowledged Labor Day. And congratulations to former Councillor Khan Goodluck for organising that event. On the 27th of April, we welcomed 96 new residents to the Gladstone region. They're already residents, no doubt, but they're new citizens to our region at our citizenship ceremony at the Gladstone Entertainment Convention Centre. Also, an exciting event happened on the 28th of April, was the sod turning ceremony for the patient transfer facility at the Gladstone Airport. And I'd like to thank the team at the Gladstone Airport for organising that event and, of course, thank the federal government for their investment in making that facility happen. The 1st to the 3rd of May, of course, one of the biggest events in our region for the year was the Boyne-Tenham Hookup, and it was fantastic to be there on Sunday night to call out the winning name of the major prize, which, of course, went to a local lady from Kincora. So congratulations to everyone involved in the Boyne-Tenham Hookup. It was also fantastic to acknowledge the new committee who stood up this year and made sure the event continued for many years to come. Upcoming in the Gladstone region, we have World Bonsai Weekend at the Tondoon Botanic Gardens on Saturday the 8th of May at 9 to 3 p.m. and Sunday the 10th of May from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We have our Community Forum on Curtis Island on 13th of May. Of course, we've got the 70 Festival happening from the 22nd to the 24th of May. And most importantly, and the most important event happening for the region for the year will be Mother's Day on Sunday the 10th of May. And thank you to all the mothers for all the amazing work they do in our region and for their families. So best wishes to all the mums out there. Thank you, councillors. The next item on the agenda is the minutes of the 21st of April 2026. Can I get a mover, please? Move Councillor Wagner, seconded by Councillor Davis. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you. I'll now like to move, as I previously notified to councillors and to the CEO, I'd like to move a procedural motion that item G 4.3 be moved to the top of the agenda, and we deal with that first, and that is options for the 50-metre pool for the Gladstone. I'd like to move that, please. I don't need a seconder. So I'd like to now put the motion that be brought to the top of the agenda. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you. We have no deputation, so I'll move directly into the officers' report. And the first officers' report will be G 4.3 regarding the Gladstone Aquatic Centre. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm joined today by my colleague Mark Francis, GM of Assets and Environment, and we'll take you through our options for the replacement of the Gladstone Aquatic Centre 50-metre pool. Just a little bit of history. In 2020, Council initiated a detailed condition assessment on the 25-metre and the 50-metre pools at the Gladstone Aquatic Centre. The condition assessment has informed capital projects across the past 4 years. Council deferred a retiling of the 50-metre pool to further investigate the health of the concrete pool shell further, given there were signs of deterioration on the base and on the sides of the shell. Ground penetrating radar assessments were undertaken and have identified several structural defects, including several large, deep voids under the concrete floor. There's also deterioration to the sides of the concrete structure, which is causing tiles to crack and the potential for further patron injury. In addition to these defects, the pool has also been experiencing substantial water losses through pipe leaks to and from the pool's filtration systems. It's estimated that the water losses are close to around 20 kilolitres a day. The pipe network itself runs underneath Splash Zone Play Park, which is also proposed to be replaced in this project. Our engineering asset solutions team, along with subject matter experts in Council's capital delivery team, have provided estimate replacement costs for 2 options of the replacement of the 50-metre pool. Both options will include the following. So they'll include design, demolition and disposal, a renewal of the pool shell and tiling, pool furniture, so starting blocks and railings, etc., the pipe network, balance tank, heater, filtration pumps, a retractable shade cover for a portion of the 50-metre pool, a new water play park, the electrical upgrade and solar installation. In your report, you can see that option 1 is for the replacement of like for like, so 8 lanes constructed to World Aquatic standards, which used to be FINA standards, it's now World Aquatic, which is an estimate of about 25 million, with a construction period between 18 to 24 months on that project. Option 2 is for an Olympic standard pool, 10 lanes, also constructed to World Aquatic standards, at an estimated price of 40 million. There will be significant earthworks and retaining works included in the 10-lane option, and an estimated construction period of 30 months. There's no further planning approvals required for option 2. Would you like to say any words? I've covered? Okay. Open for questions.
I've got an opinion on this one, but I'll throw around the room to the councillors first. Who would like to go first? Thank you, Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Kylie. Just with the ground penetrating radar, was there any evidence there, because I know I've grown up in Gladstone, and my slight worry is with the watercourse. I think I have brought this up with you before, that runs, it used to come from Central School all the way through the valley and down to that area. So was there any evidence that there is an actual watercourse under there that could be causing any of these issues?
Not that we've found so far, but we haven't investigated totally. Have you got any inside knowledge of that?
Yeah, the GPR has given us a view. One of the things we wanted to do was, once we remove the shell, was undertake further investigations.
So that could add to the costings, obviously?
Potentially, but there is significant investment in stabilising the ground already in place.
Okay. And I know you did mention planning, Kylie, so our planning department are over both scenarios and there's no issues there moving forward? Okay.
It's consistent with the use. Yep.
All right, thank you.
That's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Wagner.
Yeah, thank you for the report. And obviously, it is the money there. There is always that risk that it could be a lot more than that. So it is a fairly big consideration. It pains me to have to look at this now that the Boyne-Tanham pool was approved when it's within 20 kilometres, because this could have been an opportunity to have a look at a good regional aquatic centre. I'm talking about something way out there instead of having 30 million on one and potentially the equivalent or more on the other. When I was over in Margaret River for one of the transport conferences last year, the year before, at Margaret River, they actually had a whole complex in the one location that had multiple indoor pools and what have you. It was state-of-the-art, absolutely brilliant for a town that size. So I'm in two minds. One, do you just spend it and have the same amount there? Or two, when that pool isn't being used in winter, should we be, pains me, looking then at, do we make this, if we're going to have an Olympic pool, do we make it so people can swim there all year round as well? Like, if you're going to go and spend 40 million, then, I'd like to see us have some further investigations on our regional strategy, because we have already identified, and it has been published, that there are some issues with the Mount Larkham pool, and we've had to shut that several times in the last couple of years, and I don't think it's any secret that community knows that there's some challenges because they are half a century old, these pools. So well done to those who constructed them originally, because they've stood the test of time. Unfortunately, they've all come at this time. I see both of the options, and while in principle it's great to be able to replace, I like the idea of like for like. I see an opportunity here to have a look at our wider strategy. I'm reluctant to back either of them without us actually looking at where do we want to place ourselves? We've had challenges actually managing them. The cost of management is significant burden on our ratepayers as well. I like the idea that we have the splash zone, and we might be able to even improve that. But we also have now an indoor pool that has been there for probably, I don't know, but maybe at least 25 years, maybe longer.
Longer, I think
Yeah,
it's about 40.
there too. And have we, and pardon my ignorance, but have we actually had a good look at the structural integrity of that, and what is the lifespan of that? Are we better to actually have a really good look at where we want to position ourselves? If we want to be something international and bring stuff here, then this is the opportunity to do it. I think if we just make the decision on this, and I know that we're going to be closing pools and what have you for 24 months, but I think if that's the way we want to go and that's what this community wants from us, I think we do need to look at all weather. It's silly having for me, I don't like the idea of a 6-month pool for that sort of investment. So I just want to put out there that I don't really want to be making this decision. I'd put it out to others to have that conversation too and see where we want to take this. I don't want to be rushing this because we've got a pool going in at Boyne Island anyway. There is one within 20 Ks. If we're going to do it, I think we either go in and do something really outstanding. I mean, if you have a look at Margaret River and what it has done for that small community, it is amazing. And I'd like to see us, position ourselves according to what our community might want us to do. But thank you.
Councillor Wagner.
Thank you, Councillor Wagner. Over to you, Kylie, then I'll go to Councillor McClintock.
Sorry, Mr Mayor. Just on the all-year pool, so this project includes the electrical upgrade, which will allow us to heat that pool. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor McClintock.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. I know we'd had discussions around some of the temperature control on that larger one. This pricing here includes that for both options? Yeah.
Yes, it does.
I mean, they're estimates, obviously, and having just been through a pool process, I know they're pretty informed in many regards as to what that process looks like. I am struggling with the estimation being 15 million different between the 8-lane and the 10-lane. I don't know how we work that better. Obviously, the report is pretty high level. I don't understand probably more of that and would like to understand a little bit better how we jump so much for that little improvement there, and what is it? I know there's some retaining works that perhaps have to happen in that wall there, or on that bank there, I'm assuming. But where does that 15 million come from is probably my first question.
That is the vast majority of the difference, is that there's significant groundworks and earthworks required to fit in the 10-lane pool. So that is a quantum of cost in addition to what would be just using the existing footprint.
Oh yeah, still struggling with the numbers a little bit, but that's probably just more.
Sorry, and to add 2 extra lanes adds a quantum of extra water to heat and to build and etc. It's just everything's a little bit bigger. Yeah. And out of curiosity,
I think we've discussed it before, and as Councillor Wagner said, the idea of some kind of more permanent sheltering over the top of it, and that type of idea that would allow it to be used more often. We don't really have too much of a winter, to be honest, but the summer seasons, it is quite brutal out there. I know even for our children, when we go down there, it's a short visit to the main pool because they cook. They turn into little red lobsters very, very quickly. So I do appreciate that some shading has been done in or added to this process here as well. But I would like to think that we can do this properly, and I'm probably in agreement with Councillor Wagner that we don't. I don't see the difference of, even if it is another 12 months or another 6 months, being that significant to mean that we need to rush through this process to get a pool open. The other thing I did want to just flag or potentially request too is that we do have another pool. I know we are currently leasing that through Souths, I believe, just 200 metres up the road. So as far as having lanes available for people to swim in the morning and do those sorts of things, I know it can get quite congested inside that the heated pool that we've got there at the moment. I would like to see us explore some options in working with them to open that a little bit more through this process so that our town still has access to having those laps while we go through it.
Thank you, Councillor McClintock. Other councillors? Yes.
Thanks, Mr
you.
Mayor. I'm agreeant with Councillor Wagner as well. This is really a significant infrastructure for our community, and as she has rightly pointed out, there are some very big issues with some other pools that are councillorly owned right now. My initial thoughts, and this is a great document to be read, the Royal Life Saving Australia have actually published in 2025 the state of aquatic facilities, benchmarking social, health and economic values, access, equality and sustainability. And I think there's probably some room to advocate to state and federal governments on the back of this report as well. And also looking at our population. So a lot of the statistics, when I looked at our population, the growth only really goes up to 2052, whereas this what we're talking about, this infrastructure would be, if you look at 50 years, will go to 2072, I believe, if I've got my maths right. Yeah, something around that. So this is something hugely significant, and I would like to have a lot more information before having to make that decision. One question I did have is on option 2 for the 40 million. Kylie, you mentioned that it would go, a lot of the piping goes underneath the current. Was that in the 40 million as well for the replacement of that too? It was? Sorry, I just needed to clarify that as well.
Fine, sorry, that's okay. The whole pipe network goes from the 50 metre under the splash zone and then to the plant room.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yep, that's my only question, but yeah, definitely this is a very big decision, and I think we need to look at it very strategically on what our population needs going forward and what the community feels is of need as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Muscat.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, there's a couple of comments, and I guess just to, I'm struggling a little bit with what we're trying to do here. The officer's recommendation is to replace it for a like for like. That's what we're discussing today. So I agree with the sentiment of having some sort of regional strategy, which we have been, I guess, discussing for a long time, not just about aquatic centres, but sporting facilities and recreational facilities. While I would normally be all for that, because, well, I'm in the record as always wanting to do things that make sense through prioritising different things and understanding the needs in different areas, specifically, especially when we have a region that is so big. I'm concerned about the urgency of the matter. So I'm happy. I mean, I don't have a problem with having another look, another discussion, another whatever we want to have. But we have a pool that is closed effectively already. So I have no doubt that we all want to replace it, or we want to have another pool or another service that allows people to do their swimming activities and recreation activities that are related to water. So is there any way in which we can do both at the same time? Because I also realise that while you have an approximate cost on the capital expenditure, as in, well, supposedly there is no life of the asset cost understanding, or I guess maybe a little, but not necessarily all there. I also can't really make a decision, and I thank you for bringing this up, because we asked for this to be brought up as soon as possible because we needed to make a decision, and that's on us as well. So there is an option here. Well, you talk about that until a competitive tender process, we have one, we will, until that happens, we won't be able to give, or at least have some sort of understanding of a life cost of the asset. I don't know if from the experience that we had with the Moynihan pool, that maybe we can draw something from there. But is there any way in which we can do the two at the same time? Because I don't want to delay this anymore, because we know we're going to have another aquatic centre there, whatever shape or form that is. Okay, happy to investigate, but I don't want to delay it by not progressing one part because we're doing a strategy, which I like to do too. But anyway, does that make sense?
Just so I can understand, Deputy Mayor, so you're wanting us to do a strategy on the pool and proceed with a replacement? Is that?
Well,
I
it's
just
not
wanna be clear.
it's not a strategy on the pool, but more of an understanding of the needs of aquatic centres or facilities around the Gladstone Regional Council area. Picking up on what my colleagues have said just before, it's not just this one, it's also how they complement each other, what ideas we have in relation to Mount Larkham, if that is still providing the value for money that it used to, or is there somewhere else we can invest money in that same community but in a different way, what's going to happen with Tanham, and also some of those, I guess, young people's recreation spaces like the splash zones, and that's also, I think, probably is one of the most popular and used spaces. Like, I used to use it when my kids were little. So beautiful places. So yeah, not just a strategy on the pool, but something that we can do at the time, so we can find the place, and we can organise our investment and our asset management around aquatic facilities at the same time as progressing the Gladstone pool, because I don't want it to get delayed in whatever we're going to do next.
Thank you, Councillor Muska. Kylie, can I throw to you, then over to Councillor Holzheimer?
I think Kylie's finished.
No, you didn't have any response to okay for Deputy Mayor. Okay, over to you, Councillor Holzheimer.
I really understand the opinions of all of the other councillors in the room, and I want us to get it right. I want us to future-proof whatever we do. I also understand the urgency in regards to there's work we may be able to do, earthworks, something like that, in the meantime. For me, I noticed in there wasn't anything about that car park next to it as well, which is a little bit aged. So if we're doing this beautiful aquatic facility, then what about the car park that's right there as well in that costing? I was curious about that whole of life costs. And if we do delay the decision to outwork it, what does that time frame actually add to it? Because I know you're going, like for like versus going to a bigger pool is longer. If we want it outworked a bit further in regards to get clarity over a concept design or plan or those sorts of things as well, what does that add to the time frame of actually people being able to swim in the pool? And cost, because there's also that cost part of it as well.
It certainly adds to the construction time, if that was there. If I can, what I've heard is in regards to the strategy and the potential delay for that. I think to the Deputy's question, these two things can run in parallel. If we can agree with yourselves and the community about the concept for the Gladstone pool, because that would then form the strategy elsewhere as well about what's available. So those two things can run in parallel, I feel, and needn't hold up. In terms of the development of the concept and through to detailed design, you do have an investment decision when the tender is received, and that's generally when we provide the full costings for you. The development of that design and getting to that point is factored into these timelines. So there is that potential to continue on track. As I say, probably what we need to establish is the concept, what you want the Gladstone Aquatic Centre to deliver for the community.
Okay, beautiful. For me, I'm go hard or go home. If we're going to invest money, we actually make it something really spectacular and make it the main aquatic centre for the region. So if that is a larger investment, then that's what we need to do. So it actually gets us through 50 years. So it adds community value, so it can be used all year round as well. So for me, that's where I really sit with it. I'm happy to go hard, all in. The other question that sits alongside that and thoughts for myself is the funding options. Do we borrow, sorry for using that word, do we use our cash reserves, or do we actually add it onto our rate base as well? So that's actually another conversation that I would like to have alongside this at some stage. I know that's not today. For me, though, to get clarity, I'm happy for a 10-lane pool. If that actually helps us progress to the next steps, so that we can outwork what it actually looks like, the real costs, the whole life of the project as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer. I agree with that 10-lane pool comment. I'll throw to Councillor Patrick, then Councillor McClintock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, to answer the question that we're being asked today by officers, I would be in favour for the 10-lane pool. This allows for the growing population. We currently, from the research that I've done, and again, going back to the State of Australian Aquatic Facilities report, increasing our capacity to deliver for increased population, club growth, public lane congestion, ability to host regional and state events, and to just be in line for the next 50 years with our population, I would be in favour of a 10-lane pool. But like Councillor Holzheimer has pointed out, there are a lot of other considerations, financial, ongoing considerations that need to be upheld. And having the 50-metre pool down in Tannum, when I look at this report by the Royal Surf Life Saving Australia, we are not over investing in our region by any means. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. I've got a couple lining up, Councillor McClintock, then Councillor Wagner, and then I'd like to ask Councillors Cameron and Churchill to speak on this as well.
Would you like to speak, Churchy? Yeah, I think the important part of this for me is that we're not deciding on two price points here. They are best estimates, and we're deciding on two options. And I do understand that they're informed estimates. My concern is if we take those estimates into too high a level of consideration, the reality is the smaller one could be 30 and the bigger one could be 35. It could end up being much closer in price than what it actually is, or it could both end up being significantly more due to all sorts of different things. So I know we've sort of discussed this or floated this in other projects before, but is there reasoning, help me understand the reasoning, can we go out to tender with a multi-option where we give them the option to quote on the two sizes and give us a difference between the two so that we can accurately make this decision rather than just estimating?
Yes, I mean, potentially we can, but you're running two separate tenders because there may be disadvantaging a tenderer who has a capability to undertake the 8-lane but not the 10-lane.
Yep.
So, and then they're excluded from that if they can't do both. It's difficult. It's also developing two concepts and 2 sets of detailed designs and 2 sets of issued for construction or issued for tender documentation. So the front end then becomes very chunky and laborious to provide 2 detailed designs to go to market.
Yes, but a lot of the details will overlap between the two. The pool itself will obviously have to have some differences, but the play area, the infrastructure and things like that will remain largely the same between the two.
Yeah, I'll defer to Tanya on the contract side as well, but
yeah, that was more my concern.
We have advised previously when we talked about putting options into the market which we're unlikely to go through, then it's maybe not be tendering in good faith if we're asking people to, because obviously there's cost involved in responding to tenders and putting in tender submissions, which then would be lost if we use that as a sort of balancing act. I'm confident in the work that we've done with the Boyne Tanham pool, that the way that we will develop our costings, we'll get a very good indication of the real world cost of the tender. There is not even a drawing on a page for these estimates at the moment. So
yeah, that's right. My concern.
You're right to express the concern about the validity of those costs. They are best guesses. Yeah. But you're right. They could come in significantly more, significantly less, or narrow between the two. So I guess rather than, as you say, looking at the cost point or the price point, it's the service we want the aquatic centre to deliver to the community, and I think we're hearing that 10 lanes and an upgrade of the service that the aquatic centre provides, including amenities and car parks as well, is something that we can move to concept with.
Appreciate that, and I think that's what I really wanted us to centre on or to highlight there in that, because my concern too is that if we inadvertently make it clear that we want a 10-lane pool and it's got that pricing attached to it, what that sets us up as far as commercial interest and people already having an idea that we've approved $40-odd million to spend on this is not the story that we're telling today. What we are deciding between is 2 different levels of service, not 2 different price points. And I just wanted to really make sure that was heard loud and clear before we go to tender. And I guess in my mind, if it's possible, going to tender with both gives us a much less likelihood of sending that message that we are looking for one price point or the other, but we are looking for a difference between the two and incentivising in many regards the best price on both options to get them through at the same time. But I do understand there's some level of complexity to doing 2 at once. I see a strong crossover. We're not looking at 2 completely different projects, so there is some alignment there. But the other side to that is that this isn't a $100,000 investment. This is potentially $40-odd million. So if it costs us a little bit of extra at the start to get that right, it's worth spending the money at the start.
If I can, we'll take on notice the procurement strategy and whether that is there, and we'll come back to
and that's probably
with advice from our contracts
correct.
and procurement team about whether that's an appropriate.
Yes, that's the bit that I'm not got the confidence on. I'm not a legals person, and so but I would like to have that as an option if it is. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wagner.
Yeah, no, thank you. What I am hearing here, we've got a motion here, and it does sort of commit us to making a decision. It doesn't say like for like, but we're sending a message that we're going to replace it. And I think we're all in agreement to that. I get that we're rushing, but I'm not actually hearing like, in principle we support it, but we're now deciding that we're going to spend nominally $25 or $40 million. But what I'm also hearing is that we want to do some more planning and stuff. So when I'm talking about a strategy for the region, yes, that can work beside it, but I'd like to see this, if you want to call it outworked, and actually come back to us, this is what we've got the quote, like this is how much it's going to cost for the option, because yes, I like the idea of the cover and the whole lot, or indoor, whatever, for it, but we're still making a decision here on an in-principle concept. To me, it's not set in concrete enough, and I think it sends some mixed messages. I'd like to see us actually consider too, something we haven't done with our park down here where we've got the basketball and what have you, is how do they actually integrate together in that particular site? There's others that we had opportunities there, particularly with the basketball expansion, to do more down there. We'll discuss that some other time. But in terms of, we've got a, I won't talk about that now, but the pool itself, we've got associated facilities next door, and when we're looking at some of these ones that are working and you're looking at the social future and what have you, what about your pickleball and your squash and your what have you? Do we start thinking those plans? I know that some of that land is ours, but there is land nearby, and I'm saying I'd love to see us not just keep doing things in isolation. I'd like to see us look at the whole picture. How do we do these things better, and how do we make them even into a bigger sport complex? And the other thing is, and I've read the document and maybe I haven't seen it, but in terms of the 10-lane pool and the 8-lane pool, what does the 10-lane pool actually allow us to do that the 8-lane pool wouldn't?
It's the standard of events, so it's an Olympic category pool. So you would be able to attract higher level events.
Right, okay. Yeah, no, well, I saw that it said Olympic, but I didn't know exactly what that translated to. So.
Normally, if I can, normally for state, national, and if you're then looking at the 2032 Olympic Games, you will attract that to the region by having a 10-lane pool, as well as functionally having that as your main pool. In the world of swimming and community, having access to laneage. So if you have training happening for, say, squads, learn to swim, and then community wanting access, more lanes, more space, more opportunity to utilise the asset to a higher degree.
So I'm just seeing, and I love the idea that we have these Olympic, we could have had some of the game stuff coming here, but I don't know, I can't help but feel we have that indoor pool, but do we need the two then? Can we make one really, really super duper complex there that has other things too for people to come and socialise and have their barbecues and do all that sort of stuff too? I don't know. I just think the report that we've got now, I love it. It's in principle. That's all this is. And we're going to go down that rabbit warren with the idea that we want to get it in really, really quickly. We have the indoor pool at the moment. There are other options for us to maybe negotiate some lanes somewhere. But I think, I don't know, it'd be interesting to know how the community feel that if we did shut it for longer. And I'm not saying have a strategy that's going to take 2 years to do. I'm talking about that can be run alongside it. But in terms of this particular complex, I'd like to see us look at how do we integrate everything, sports and everything in the one locations. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe I'd ask Councillor Churchill and Cameron if they'd like to add now, please.
Yeah, no, thanks, man, Matt. I'd be interested to hear what you've got to say. I've sort of remained silent, which is highly unusual for me, because I originally came here based on my readings with the intent to move a motion to defer, to have a larger think tank, but I've sat back listening to everybody's comments, and there's a huge variation of thoughts and ideas, and I understand we want to accelerate, but I'd like to think that we're accelerating slowly. And you brought up some wonderful ideas, and then I've listened to Councillor Simon appropriately saying, let's go out with a couple of other options. I've got a heap of questions, and I'm not going to ask them now. I don't think it's appropriate, but the two things that jump out at me right at this particular stage, whether it's 25 million, whether it's 40 million, I know the journey of the Boyne Aquatic Recreation Centre, when we went on that journey, on the original costing for that, and now where we've landed is quite different, significantly different when we started on that journey. So I'm interested in two aspects. What's the community feel? What's the users? At the end of the day, I know we've got to make tough decisions, but I'm very much interested in understanding the demands of the users while we just sit here and just talk about a 8-lane pool or a 10-lane pool. And that's competitive, that's competition swimming, that's training. I understand all that, but what's the other needs of the aquatic type centres? That's probably the first one, and there's a lot of extrapolations that can come out of that, and I'm not going to harp on that. And the second one, appropriately, is the impact on our ratepayers, albeit our budget, because at the end of the day, it's the ratepayers that will have to foot the bill, and we're accountable to our ratepayers. So my question in amongst that is that we've been very vigilant, very diligent, and very successful in sourcing external funding from state and federal governments. We've been, as we would all know, this council and the previous council, we have some wonderful people that work in that area. But it's also an advocacy project because this is a need of the people. And we've got a federal election looming probably earlier than we think. And so my questions that come out of that is, what endeavour would we be making to soften the blow on our ratepayers if it's 25 million or if it's 40 million, and what's the contingency? Does that 40 go to 50? So I'll go back to my original point, was that I was keen to move a motion to defer, but in light of saying that, and if you want to take that on notice, but I'm happy to go down, having listened to everything, I'm happy to go down the path that Councillor Simon was indicating, provided that the other thoughts are taken into consideration when we go out to tender in the marketplace. So that's probably just my position as it stands at the moment, so I'm not quite sure which way we would go depending on where we land.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Councillor Cameron, then I'll go to the Deputy Mayor, then I'll have some comments after the Deputy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, a lot of interesting comment going on. Like Glenn, I sat back and listened to all the discussion going on. My first reaction was that a replacement like for like is the way we should be looking at it. The way I see it is what we've got to is deliver something that is gives the people what they want, what they need. And what they need is an all-round pool, so it needs to be heated. What they need is shade over that pool so they don't get sunburnt. There's the two things there. As far as an Olympic or world standard swimming pool, do we really need anything like that? 10 lanes? My understanding is that with a 10-lane pool in Olympic standard type events, the 2 outside lanes drop off and they only use the 8. Some sort of slipstream or dead water or whatever it might be. You could do the same thing with an 8-lane pool and you drop the 2 out and you're using 6. You can get the same thing. The closest we're going to get to an Olympic event is training. That's about all we would expect to get here, and that's worth having too, because that attracts a lot with it. What should be a part of the pool is something that gives you that ability as far as timing is concerned, where you could have electronic touchpads either side of the pools to get exact timing on that. That's what's needed for Olympic standard or world standard training, not someone standing there with a stopwatch or something like that. They're the things that should be needed. I'm more considering a like-for-like basis 8-lane pool with the sufficient assets to it that gives the community an all-round pool and a shade pool. They would be the things I'm looking at. It would be lovely to have all these bells and whistles and everything, but we've got to live within our means as well. We've got to think of the impact of infrastructure like this and the running costs on these big idea things that we're looking at too. So I think we really do need to defer this and have a little bit of more discussion, maybe through some council information sessions, what have you, and thrash it out a little bit more. I don't think we're in a position to make a decision to go ahead with anything today. There's a lot of different opinions and they're all good. They're all good. But I think a lot of community consultation's got to be taken up in this to get a direction from the community. You know, I think that's where we are. So I think if Councillor Churchill wants to move a deferment, I'd be happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Deputy Mayor? Sorry, I'll go to the Deputy Mayor
Thank you.
first, then I can come back and take your foreshadowed motion.
Yeah. I think that the difficulty here is probably that the officer's recommendation is probably we're not going that way. We're not ready to do that. So I guess we could defer or we could just have another officer's recommendation. So amend the recommendation that is as one of the options for the continuing discussion of the replacement for Gladstone Aquatic Centre. I have to say, I very much agree with Councillor Cameron. I can change my mind, after we do a bit more consultation or we understand a bit more of that strategy, which I agree we should be doing. And going back to, I think it was Councillor Churchill, he talked about the users' needs and our community needs. And I think it is kind of nice to sit here and then say, well, what are the needs of the lifesavers, of Australia Lifesavers, or the Swimming Association, which is wonderful. But we are not just addressing their needs. We are addressing the needs of the whole of the residents here. So when we talk about considerate investment in one activity, we still have a number of different sports around our region that have substandard facilities, like that wouldn't even, we wouldn't even mention Olympics or even, some sort of nice training facilities. So, obviously different sports need different things, but when we talk about this, we need to remember that we're also talking to everyone here. So that's why I'm supportive of some sort of sport and recreation strategy, which I know we had in the past, but somehow we seem to sometimes deviate from it, so it makes it obsolete, which I completely understand. So I love to have some sort of better understanding as to what our community is wanting to do sports and recreation-wise, and if you need to travel 20 kilometres to a place to do that, well, that's a lot less than you travel anywhere else in Queensland or in Australia to get to a facility where you can do Olympic level training, and we can maybe understand what level of services that we want to provide. Do we want to provide something that people can then step up to things, or what exactly, or for people to win an Olympic medal? So I know it's just that we can't do everything. So I like to understand where the investment is best utilised in relation to every ratepayer and resident. So not all residents are ratepayers. So
Thank you.
and also understand the 30-year cost, because that's all good, but going back to what Councillor Cameron said, this is going to stay here in the long-term financial plan for another 30 years, and someone's got to pay for it. Sorry, I got
Sorry,
on.
before I wrap up, I'll go to Councillor Davis and then I'll finish up.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've just been sitting back listening to all the councillors' views, and I just wanted to, I think I don't want to rush this decision. I think we need to see what the community, like the pool users. There's a lot of people in this community that use the pool not for just swimming, but for health and mobility services. So I think that's, like, for me to get that feedback and see what we can best do. And I think this is our opportunity to get it right, and I don't want to get it wrong. And also, I think the question I asked before about, is there any water courses under there? I think I'd like to see more investigation to make sure that we're not going to go ahead with a pool that's going to have the same issues come 10 years down the track. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Davis. That's exactly what I was going to say. My preference is, as I said earlier, to go for a 10-lane pool, not because we're going to host an Olympic event, because we won't, but it's because we can host those state and national titles that Councillor Patrick was mentioning as well. And potentially we might get countries wanting to use our facility, but I'm not concerned about the Olympics. I'm concerned about training our next Olympians. I'm concerned about hosting those major events that support our small businesses as well. I guess from my point of view, I'm happy to accept the motion to defer so councillors have more time to think about it and get more information. But I really am concerned, and I think Councillor Davis knows rightly, family's been in Gladstone for a long time, as mine have, the water course at the railway dam that floods underneath the Valley Shopping Centre. I'd be surprised if it isn't involved in why we've had so many issues at the Gladstone Aquatic Centre over so many years. So I definitely would like to find out more information about. I don't want to talk about moving the pool, but maybe 50 years ago or whenever it was built, it was built in the wrong spot. I don't know, but I think we need, before we go spending 40 million, because I believe we should put 10 lanes in, before we spend that kind of money, we really should make sure we know what the water movements are. And if officers can guarantee that's not the reason it's been leaking over all these years, not the reason it's ruined the tennis courts a number of times, not the reason for whatever, that this is the right place to rebuild a pool, then I'd like to have the conversation, whether it's a dual conversation around an 8-lane and a 10-lane, however much that extra expense is for the tender process. But I think I like what Councillor Alzheimer said, go hard or go home. We're building a new facility for a region. We need to be looking the 30 and 40 and 50 years ahead for what our community is going to need in 20 years' time at least, not what we need necessarily today when you're building a regional facility like that. So I think we need more information on this one. We need more time to think about it, but we don't want to slow the process down because our city can't be without a pool for too long while we contemplate items. But I think we need more information and more time to think about it. So I do have a motion from Councillor Cameron that we defer the item, and seconded by Councillor Cameron. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor Matt, can I just correct you on that? I foreshadowed a motion to...
Well, you said defer, so I'm happy to take whatever you'd like to say, but that's what you said.
We can amend that.
No, just bear with me for a second. You just said Councillor Cameron moved the motion. I foreshadowed a motion earlier. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant in the scheme of things.
No, move Councillor Churchill, seconded Councillor Cameron.
Yeah, but wait till I just get the wording up there at this particular stage. So that we, I'm not opposed to the go hard or go home philosophy, but I can tell you we need to get it right. And when we get it right and we're in agreement with our people, I think that's going to be a better outcome for all of us. So happy to go that way, but let's get it right. So I'm moving that council undertake further investigations in relation to the replacement of the 50-metre pool at Gladstone Aquatic Centre with community consultation
Across the region.
and our contribution, councillors' contribution, we're elected by the people, and present a report with options to a future general meeting.
Yeah, thank you. Can you include in there something in relation to what Councillor Davis and what I agree with about whether it's a water course study or a topography or something along those lines?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that, but I'll be guided by our general managers on that, whatever that terminology might be. If it's a site, help me, Mark, please.
It probably includes it anyway, doesn't it?
I would imagine that would be...
I want it in the minutes.
Sorry,
yeah, I
Mayor,
think it needs to be in the recommendation.
The geotechnical work would have formed part, and that includes the hydrological underground work, would have formed part of the detailed design process. I can take it on notice about whether that's able to be done now. We were talking, if you recall, when we first brought the options to you, to do that geotech work and understand the underground conditions. We wanted to remove the shell to do that, so it was envisaged that that's the point at which we were doing that. While it may not be the right place to do it, there are options for us to engineer below ground to ensure that what we put on top of it won't be hampered by the watercourse. So that was all envisaged as part of the detailed design process.
Yeah, so in simple understanding, we've got to take the shell out, we've got to take it out before we can do more geotechnical work. Is that the case?
Yes, and the appropriate engineering
so egg and
to protect
chicken,
the
horse and
structure,
cart, call it what you like. Yep, no, understand that. So no, go back. I understand your intent, Mayor Matt, to try and have it in there, but we've got wording up there at the moment. If you could just raise that font up for us, please, Rachel, so that we and everybody that's looking online will be able to see it as well. Council undertake further investigations, including investigations of underground water courses in relation to the replacement of the 50-metre pool at Gladstone Aquatic Centre with community consultation and councillor contributions and present a report with options to a future general meeting. I'm quite satisfied with that.
Sorry, if I can, Mayor. So what we described about the geotechnical work and the investigations needing to understand the hydrological flows, I think that would come after the optioneering, because it's not a binary choice that if there's a water flow there that's causing this, then we can't put the pool there. The response would be to engineer underground so that the above ground structure and the pool is protected. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we can't put the pool there if there's a water course found to be causing the voids. We would engineer that out during construction. So it's not unless you want it to be a decision point for you, that if there is a water course there, not to have the pool there. We would be using the results of our geotech and hydrological studies to inform the construction.
Understand. Could that not be part of the options in your report when it comes back? So that we actually separate, we've got to do that first before we can do the geotechnical work?
So that would be understood. There's a difference between optioneering the components of the pool and going through a concept and detailed design process,
okay.
which is we need to understand the concept so we can then do those additional studies.
Okay.
So I would, if possible, focus us around making sure we have the right product, and then we deal with the engineering complexities of delivering that product on the current site. It may be that the site is not viable, but that can only be done after the appropriate investigation.
Yeah, sure, okay.
But I'm
That's
confident we can engineer out any problems.
And that's what brings me back to my think tank when I woke up this morning, again, thinking about the think tank. Because there are so many attachments to it. Okay. Anyway.
I know it's probably
Deputy,
not needed, but, well, I like to, it's just that I want to make a mention of some sort of, yeah, well, that could be definitely, yes, but I wasn't going that way, but that's a great point, timeframes. But in alignment with a regional sport and recreation strategy, in a way, and I know it's, when we do consultation about an aquatic centre, yes, but we're only going to get responses about like this specific asset. When I like us to move into a sort of a bigger picture as to what our assets are around, and explain to people and to ourselves what it is that we have there available for them to live, a healthy life. I know.
Yeah, an overall strategy is going to take 12 months.
Yes,
At least, probably 18.
I'm not
if we
opposed
can't
to
wait
the
that
idea.
long.
I think.
Well, but we have one
It
already.
doesn't need to be in line with that.
We have one already.
we do, but
Can we just update it? I'm just saying in line. It's just I don't want to contradict something either. So we
Yeah.
can make it happen. And also the timeline. Yeah, I think Councillor Holzheimer has a point there with the timeline.
Sorry, okay, there's councillors lining up again now. We go to Councillor Davis and Councillor Wagner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I know I'm not an expert. Obviously, Mark, you're the expert in the watercourse, but it still just keeps worrying me. And I know you say we can engineer it out, but once the pool's out and, we get to that stage, there could be that risk that it's not viable to put it back even with engineering. And I don't want to go to that expense of getting to that stage, and we could be in contracts by then, and then we can't put the pool back there. So that's just really my worry. I don't know how we can get around it, but yeah.
Yeah,
try and
I
give you
share the
some-
same worry. I think it's the right place for the pool to go, but I'm not an expert, and I don't know that the wrong decision wasn't made a long time ago to put it there. And I know you're the engineer, or you got the engineers in the room that can make those decisions, but maybe it might be an easier decision to put it somewhere else. Still build what we want to build for the community. Might be next door, might be in conjunction with Souths, might be in conversation with the Gladstone showgrounds about maybe the watercourse runs right underneath the pool, because I'm sure it does, and building it 20 metres to the side of where it is in the same location is going to be a better outcome. I don't know the answer to those questions. I think I'd like to know them before we get halfway through a tender process and go, oh, well, we're committed now. Councillor Wagner?
Yeah, I think every time I hear this is why we want to rush, again, we want to get this in, and I think that's fair to say. This here potentially is a decision that is going to take time, especially if you're going to start with a greenfield site. So I think we need to, probably reconcile with ourselves. It could be a long-term project. It may not be. We can just put in what's in there now and go for it, and we can engineer that out. And there could be big costs of engineering that out. Starting at a greenfield site is going to be a lot of money. But I think the immediate, when we're talking about the particular motion now, because the costing included everything like removing the pool, we need to, in this motion, at least I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, state that we're going to remove the pool to see what's actually going on in the least. Because we don't want them to go and have to investigate without that. We know the pool's going to go. So I think that has to come out. So is that part of what this motion should
I think if we can, Mayor, I don't want to say this is biting off more than we can chew, but there's a lot coming into this just now. I think we need to focus on the community consultation and the concept development. That would give us a really clear signal about what we want to do. We can also then seek to provide additional confidence on the hydrological issues that we've identified already and how that would be addressed through the thing. I think we've got a next step before we come back with the additional steps.
I'm happy to accept that. I'm happy to accept the motion as it currently stands at the moment, even though I still go back to my think tank motion. But because the more and more we continue to think about it, the more and more we're going to find other aspects to it. And I'm not opposed to a regional pool strategy, but we're trying to deal with just that 50-metre pool at the moment. The regional pool strategy is going to take us 12 months. And I'm not opposed to that, but if that be the case, then we might have to suffer that pain if we agree that we have to have a pool strategy before we can rectify a 50-metre pool. I'm not advocating for that, but it needs to be in alignment. And the longer we sit here, the more we're going to find other options as to what come forward, and that is normally not necessarily in a robust debate in a board meeting. That comes out of the think tank with the engineers and the experts that know what all the varying implications might be. And no disrespect to your report, and I think there's a lot of great work that's been done in there, but I ended up with 24 questions that I needed to ask today, and I'm not going to ask them in this environment. So you're probably fortunate I'm not asking you.
Okay, well, let's...
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Mark, Kylie, is September too early to... I see that councillors want a date on it. Is September too early to bring this report back?
No, Mr Mayor, that would be fine. That'll allow us to do some community consultation, potentially some rough concepts.
Yeah.
Yep, rough concepts, and some more just research around historical watercourses and things like that. We could also potentially have a quick look at the existing sport and rec strategy as well.
Thank you. Can we add September into the recommendation? Councillor Churchill and Cameron, are you happy with what's written up on the screen now, including a time?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Fantastic. We've got a motion on the screen moved by Councillor Churchill, seconded Councillor Cameron. There's a lot more questions to be answered here, and ultimately at morning tea you can talk with Tex, who'll tell you as a user of the pool exactly what is needed by the community. I'm going to put the motion now. All in favour? Thank you. The motion's carried. Thank you, Kylie. Thank you, Mark. That's not an easy one. We'll move back to the general agenda, please, and back to the first item on the agenda after the officers' reports was G4.1, which is the consideration of a DA 1008/2014 preliminary approval and variation to the planning scheme for Kirkwood Road bulky goods precinct. And I know Councillor Patrick has a conflict. Thank you. Over to you. General Manager of Customer Experience, Kimberly Wilson, and no doubt supported by Helen. Thank you.
Morning, councillors. I'm joined today by Tegan McDonald, Principal Planning Lead, and Candice Caniff, a Planning Officer, who've been working on this. application. Okay, so item G.4.1 asks Council to consider changes to an existing preliminary approval for the Kirkwood Road bulky goods precinct at Kirkwood. This is not an approval for the whole precinct to be constructed immediately. Rather, it sets the planning framework for future development applications on the site. The total approved floor area would remain at 44,000 square metres, but the applicant is seeking to update the approved uses, including allowing a supermarket, childcare centre, swim school and larger shop uses, and to update the development code so it better aligns with the current planning scheme. The application also seeks to reduce the staging from 6 phases to 3 and extend the approval period by 5 years, with the new lapse date being 7th December 2032. In terms of infrastructure, the approval continues to require key works, including Wego Road and Kirkwood Road, Dixon Drive and Wego Road intersection, along with required water sewage. Sorry, I checked this how to say that 6 times and I still got it wrong. The report identifies these as trunk infrastructure items under Council's local government infrastructure plan. The application was publicly notified and Council received one properly made submission. And Council officers have assessed the proposal, including economic impacts, infrastructure requirements, environmental and engineering matters, and the matters raised in the public submission. The officer's recommendation is that Council approve the change application and extension application subject to conditions. Open for questions.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Tegan. Questions, councillors? Councillor Wagner.
Yeah, thanks for that, and thank you for a comprehensive report. Great job. I'm just wondering, so they're asking for an extension of 5 years. Is there any need for us to be doing the 5 years? We've been saying no to others, so I'm just wondering.
So part of this extension request, we actually required the applicant to submit a whole heap of additional material to demonstrate compliance with our current framework, our current planning scheme. So yes, this approval was originally issued quite some time ago. Obviously, with a project of this size, they haven't commenced construction yet. They're going to need a significant amount of time to get that started. So part of our consideration or getting that comfort in agreeing to that extension for that amount of time was updated reports on bushfire and flooding, those types of things, to bring it up to line with what we would expect if they did lodge a fresh application today.
Excellent. So, and that was the other thing, the flooding. Obviously, there's a lot of water that goes through that area. You're satisfied that that meets those?
Yes, our engineers have reviewed the strategy that they've submitted and are comfortable with that.
Excellent. And one other one, in terms of supporting this particular development, what sort of assets are we going to have to put in place to be able to support this, and what sort of cost are we looking at?
I don't have preliminary costs at the moment. Have we done anything from the infrastructure charges cost-wise?
Infrastructure charges will be just as per our policy, but what the report does note is that the applicant is actually required. I usually don't need a microphone for my voice to carry. The applicant is actually required to build some significant trunk infrastructure costs.
Yep.
So that's the intersections that Kimberly mentioned before.
Okay.
The costs of those, council does not have that up to date. The LGIP currently has costs attributed in the $800,000 margin. We very much doubt that's how much this infrastructure will cost today. The applicant, when they progress to an infrastructure agreement, which is essentially how we will have to deal with the offsets from trunk infrastructure costs, they will provide us with a cost of those assets for us to ascertain what that is, and then how much the infrastructure charges would be and what the offset amount will be. So we don't have that level of detail at this point in time because we don't have the detailed design for those works.
Excellent. No worries. Thanks.
Thank you. That's over to Councillor Davis. Councillor McClintock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you
And
Thank you for the report. It was very extensive. I don't have any questions, but I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. I'll grab a second before I go to the other questions. Can I have a second, please? Thank you, Councillor McClintock. Now your question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just curious. There was a lot of reading. That was really great. I actually also appreciated within the report you separated out the application in past that has been a part of the report, and it makes it very hard and complex to try and figure out which pieces of information are a part of what. So I really did like the way this was laid out. There was a lot in the attachments as well to go through that painted a really clear picture. I guess probably two parts. One, I just perhaps an opportunity here to help community as much as anything understand how that trunk infrastructure or that LGIP process works, as far as, are we expecting people to build things? Do we need these things? How does that work in relation to that offset and what that looks like? I know we've got a little bit of an understanding on that, but that's something I never really understood in the past. It's probably part one. And then part two might be a really simple, easy question, is I saw a lot of this refers to the planning scheme in 2017, and we adopted a new one in 2020, last year, in December. So I was just curious why that's on a different one and what that means.
I'll answer your second question first because it's easier. So the planning scheme that was in effect when this was originally decided was the 2017 version. What we've been doing most recently, and we'll be continuing to do, is amending that planning scheme. So the bones remain the same. We're just doing some little nips and tucks to her as she goes. So the amendments that we've made most recently don't really materially impact the difference in what the scheme was like back in 2017. Most of the difference is to do with natural hazards, which I talked about with your bushfire and your flooding and those types of things. So that's what we've made the applicant do to bring it up to what we would expect a current application to provide.
Because I understand part of that process of moving to the newer planning scheme was actually about making that process smoother. The previous planning scheme was quite complex and there was a lot of hoops and loops to jump through. So I just hope that we're not applying a harder process than what the new planning scheme was able to empower and enable onto proponents, not just these guys, but when we're doing that, I was just trying to understand why that sits like that.
I think the most important focus we've had on the recent amendments is those lower scale developments, your dwelling houses, your duplexes, those types of developments. The requirements for developments of this massive scale really remain the same, and they should be rigorous because they're huge developments that will carry on for a large portion of time. So our focus is definitely on making it easier for those lower level, lower risk applications. Those changes don't materially affect the provisions that apply to development of this scale. Did you want me to talk about the LGIP now? So the LGIP is the Local Government Infrastructure Plan, to not speak in acronyms for everybody. Essentially what the LGIP does is the planning scheme and the LGIP are sisters, let's say. The planning scheme really sets aside the zoning, the future intention of the growth of the region, and we look at population growth particularly and say, okay, if we're going to have this population growth in the next 10, 25 years, this is the areas of land we need zoned to accommodate that. The LGIP then picks that up and says, okay, if we're going to have these growth areas, this kind of density here, this sort of commercial here, this is what the infrastructure network needs to be able to do to cater for that. So that's roads, water, sewer, parklands, that's all for. So essentially what the LGIP does is picks out what things need to be upgraded in order to cater for that ultimate growth, and that's when we get trunk infrastructure. So it's a lot of intersection upgrades, pump station upgrades, water line, making water lines bigger to accommodate for higher pressures, those types of things. When a developer triggers or is building in an area that requires those upgrades and they build that upgrade, that's the offset that they get. Now, this developer, even to access off Kirkwood Road, would have had to build a intersection of some type. But what we're asking them to do is over and above that, because it needs to cater for future growth through Weagle Road and to eventually the back of Emmerdale, which will one day be residential. So that's kind of the quid pro quo that they get, that they upgrade the intersection to a standard that will service future developments outside their footprint. And the offset from their infrastructure charges is the benefit they get from doing that.
And that offset is attached to that gap or that difference between what would be required for them and what was required for our thing. Great. Just clarifying that we don't reimburse them for all of their works and all those sorts of things. A little bit of clarity around that.
Yes, and it's only for the trunk infrastructure. So
yes,
all of their internal works, all of the internal roads, that is completely at the applicant's cost.
Great. And we are confident. I also recognise within this report here there was concerns around what it was zoned within that future plan and our planning scheme, and this is an adjustment. That's what we're really talking about here.
Yes.
And we're confident that this empowers that next stage and this is the correct direction.
So essentially what this is approving today is a mini planning scheme for the future development intent of that particular site.
Yep.
It's currently zoned emerging communities, which means future urban growth of some type. Our planning scheme in the strategic framework, which is the very highest hierarchy of the scheme, does set aside that there should be a higher level commercial bulky goods precinct on Kirkwood Road as our growth corridor. So it always envisaged that there needs to be more commercial land in that area. Through the economic studies that the applicant submitted and that we've had reviewed by our own third-party specialists. They have agreed that this is the right location and the right size as well from a square metering perspective without impacting overly on any of the other existing commercial centres.
So what we're not talking about here is replacing housing that was set aside for a precinct of any description. This fits within that
Correct,
process.
yes.
Thank you. That's all I want clarity to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McClintock. Before I hand over to Councillor Holzheimer for her question, I'll ask the Deputy Mayor to continue, Chair. I'll stay on the meeting for as long as I can, and then I'll sign out. But I'll hand over the Deputy Mayor to Chair and Councillor Holzheimer for her question.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to recap then, we had a mover anyway on Councillor Davis and a second on Councillor McClintock. So thank you, Councillor Holzheimer.
I think that this has great community benefit as somebody who actually lives in Emmerdale as well. And there's nothing like a good bit of competition as well to support driving costs down and to also provide more opportunities for members in the community. I really want to acknowledge the planning organisation. I'm sorry, I can't think of the name off the top of my head right now. And the work that actually happened in regards to bringing the old request up to standard by doing the extra work. This is a really good example of working with us so we can allow you to do what the community needs and what you need to do as well. And that's why it has my support as well. When we talk about declining things, it's often because they're giving us the same stuff and they've actually not upgraded it and brought it up to the standard that we expect today. So the impact on community for watercourses and everything is what we thought we needed 10, 15 years ago. So hats off to the work to actually bring it up to our current standard. Really appreciate that extra work that went into that. And that does help us make the right decision today as well. So thanks.
Very good. Any other questions? Anyone? Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thanks. Look, I totally agree with my colleague here on that. Yes, it does happen. But look, congratulations on the work that you've done. These sort of developments and the way you've helped them along to get them basically refresh their application. I've used that word quite a bit, refresh. Developments like this can create the impetus for further development, which we're seriously lacking in the area. So, the story that, we're not open for business, we're hard to deal with, this is a demonstration that we're not, and that we welcome development on large scale, and we're hoping that that will open up that area, because I know there's several DAs out there for housing development that could come off the back of this. So, great work, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. So we have, I don't have any questions or comments. Anyone else? We have a mover on Councillor Davis, seconded Councillor McClintock. Are we all in favour of the officer's recommendation? Thank you very much, but don't go anywhere because you're presenting the next item as well, 4.2.
Okay.
Yeah, we still have Councillor Patrick outside. So 4.2, consideration of development application DA 54 to 25, material change of use for shop as part of the Forest Springs bulky goods precinct. Thank you. And we also have Tegan and Candice. What's your role, Candice? Sorry.
Planning officer.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This item is different to the previous item, 4.1, deals with the broader preliminary approval of the planning framework for the precinct, while this item is specifically about whether to approve a development permit for a supermarket on one part of the site. The proposed supermarket has a total gross floor area of 3,992 square metres, including 3,368 square metres for the shopping centre, as well as landscaping, car parking, bicycle parking, online collection and a taxi set-down area. The application also includes infrastructure upgrades to support the development, including stormwater works, upgrades to Wiggle Road, a new signalised at Kirkwood Road, Dixon Drive and Wiggle Road, and new water and sewer connections. The application was publicly notified and Council received 2 properly made submissions. Council officers have assessed the application against the planning scheme and considered matters including economic need, impact on existing centres, traffic, stormwater, flooding, environmental and biodiversity matters, bushfire management, water and sewers infrastructure, and the issues raised in the submissions themselves. Council also commissioned an independent peer review of the applicant's needs and economic impact assessment. That review found there is a strong level of community need for a second Coles supermarket in the Gladstone urban area, and that the proposal is not expected to adversely affect the centre network. The officer's recommendation is that Council approve the development application subject to the conditions outlined. Thank you.
That's very good. And I have a few people, so let's start with Councillor Holzheimer.
I feel like we need to say ditto for a lot of the things that we actually commented for the last application as well, and I'm happy to support and move the officer's recommendation.
Wonderful. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Wagner? And I'll go to you for questions or comments too. No, it was just a seconder. Oh, okay. Okay, great. So I also have Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Deputy. I've just got a question on page 27, 28 of the report under Environment and Conservation. I see there that they failed to demonstrate the compliance with the benchmark for the biodiversity overlay in relation to the buffer for the watercourse. Will that be covered in their conditions?
Yes. There is.
I just couldn't find it.
Yeah,
sorry.
that's okay. It was in one of the attachments.
Yeah,
in the very large file. There is a condition in there where they're going to have to do a little bit more work and there's some. I'm not an environmental scientist, but you could do some landscaping and special engineering that helps reduce the amount of water that flows into there as well. So you're talking about velocities of eroding that bank. So basically your buffers are to try and prevent
the erosion.
Further erosion, loss of natural vegetation to protect the bank, etc. So because they're going closer than what we would prefer to see for a buffer, we've put some extra conditions around that. So they'll have to come back through their operational works detailed design to demonstrate compliance with that condition. So whilst they fail our ideal buffer world, there is ways that they can come back to us and rejig that a little bit to make it comply and have our environmental people happy with that.
Okay, so if they're going closer, and I know Councillor Wagner's always talking about the flooding in that area, is that going to impact if they're going closer in relation to flooding?
Not necessarily. The flooding will, and our engineers looked at that and confirmed in regards to impervious surface, increasing runoff, existing flooding situations, whereas this will just be looking more at that velocity going into the bank and that erosion and the vegetation. So it may even make it a little bit, might slow it down a bit, but yeah, it's not necessarily going to impact your flooding impacts, that condition. So.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor McClintock?
I was going to move it. That's okay. So
no problem.
I think
too late though.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's good. I guess I'd probably just as a comment too. I did notice there was a lot of back and forward in quite short time frames between the proponent, the developer, and the officers. So you guys have done some fantastic work, but I did want to also just thank them for being very proactive in providing some of those responses. We see some quite extended periods of response processes, and it can drag things out and really make it complex, but this has been shows some really intentional work from both sides, so well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Davis for the last comment.
Sorry. If this all goes ahead from today, can we get any timeframes when we might have some construction happening out that way? Is there any ballpark?
I mean, unfortunately for us, once we approve it, the ball is in the developer's court. But as you've alluded to, this developer is very motivated. They've definitely been very quickly in responding through this whole development application process. So we would hope that we would see operational works applications come in quite quickly. I know that they're very motivated to commence construction.
Excellent, exciting, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. So we have a mover and Councillor Davis, second there on... Oh, sorry, Melissa. Councillor Holzheimer has moved the G4.2 officer's recommendation, and second it's Councillor Michelle Wagner. So are we all in favour? Thank you very much. Now,
By the 7th of December 2030.
I was wondering, Mr. Mayor, if we could take a break, morning tea break. Would that be okay? Or you want us to?
You absolutely can. I don't think there's anything left. Oh, no, there is. There's one more item, yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
just one more, but then we'll go on to councillors' reports, etc. But it is 10:30.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, well, we'll take a break and we'll be back in about 20 so minutes. Thank you. welcome back. So we are going to continue with our general meeting. And the next item in the agenda is G4.4, Regional Arts Development Fund, Round 2 for 25-26, considering that obviously we already resolved 4.3, Gladstone Aquatic Centre. General Manager, Community and Lifestyle, Kylie and Felicity over there. Hello, how are you? And Councillor McClintock is going to leave the room as per his previous conflict of interest. All good? Let's just wait for the door. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Kylie, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And as you said, I've got Felicity Barker here. She's our Manager of Arts and Entertainment and also the moderator for the Regional Arts Development Fund. And we also have Councillor Holzheimer, who is the Chair. We're presenting today the Regional Arts Development Fund Round 2 for 25-26. RADF, or Regional Arts Development Fund, or RADF as it's commonly known, is a jointly funded initiative between Arts Queensland and Gladstone Regional Council. Applications were called for funding round 2, and we've been presented with quite the wicked problem where we're seeing an increase in strength in the arts and culture community, but we're also seeing an over-subscription to the fund by double. It'd be great if we could fund every project, but unfortunately we can't. Our RADF committee has come together to assess the 11 applications that we've received, recommending almost $62,000 across 5 applications. 2 of those applications received full funding and 3 applications have received part funding. The recommendations and the information on each of the artist projects are in the report, and the reasoning for funding or not funding is also provided there. So I'd like to open the floor to any questions.
Can I get any takers, question, comments? Councillor Holzheimer, talk to us.
Oh, talk to you. All right. Challenge accepted. This round was really challenging. It was great that we had so many applicants. We had, I think it was almost $120,000 worth of requests, and we had around the $60,000. So great that we had a lot of engagement, but it also meant that we had to be a little bit more strategic about our decision making. I think the committee has come a long way as well recently with getting really clear on the purpose and the intent and what we're funding. There was some concerns about some of the requests as well, and overlaps, not wanting to refund the same things and the same people repeatedly. However, if we look at in this situation, the request from the Heart of Agnes, there was lots of robust discussion about that application being the third part of a series, and whilst we understood that it was something that we funded before, this was actually the final stage of that piece of work in that project. So it was a responsible decision in regards to agreeing to fund that again, but there was lots of discussions around that. There was also some conversations about, so for some of the applications that we didn't recommend being funded, we have some money sitting there in the RADF fund for the quick grant applications. So those applications just weren't as mature. It's a council word, isn't it? Mature. And as far along as the others were. So there's opportunity for some of those applicants to provide a request under the quick grant round for RADF to progress and get some of the learning and development needs that were identified in those applications as well. I thought it was really good discussion, and that the decisions made really aligned with the guidelines as well. So thanks.
Very good. Thank you very much. Now we have some questions. Thank you, Councillor Patrick, and then Councillor Wagner.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a quick question. With some of the ones that weren't offered funding for various reasons, you do share that feedback with them, and if they need some more mentoring, are they able to get that through the committee as well?
Yes. The committee notes is shared with the outcome, so we give them some advice on whether they would benefit from a mentor for their application. In this case, where there was a lot of kind of professional development and therapeutic self-expression requests for different workshopping, the committee felt that without the funds to allocate to projects with a little bit more of a life cycle beyond the project and that maturity that Councillor Holzheimer has referred to, that they could still achieve some of what they are looking at investing in and use the quick grant rapid round to still participate in those workshops and get that self-development without actually having a whole project funded, essentially.
Yep. I just noted, where is it? The Gladstone Dance Festival, their application came in after.
It did.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that would be a great one, recommend for them to apply for before.
We would have loved to, but
okay, thank you. And they've received that feedback, obviously.
Yeah, I'm going to have a chat with them on avenues that GCC may be able to support this time.
Okay, great.
Obviously, we have to wait for the outcome of this, so now that we are following that process, we'll sit and see what else we can do. But we've done quite a bit of work with them.
Because I think part of this process too is enabling and that educational piece of allowing our community organisations to not only be able to apply for RADF, but also what other options are available funding-wise that we have open as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Wagner?
Yeah, thank you for this. This one's a little awkward for me, I have to say. I appreciate the work that is being done by the committee. There are a couple of things here, and I can understand why there was robust discussion about the Heart of Agnes one, because what I see, I mean, we've made a lot of inroads about addressing recurrent funding, and I know this is a 3-year program, but I think in retrospect it would have been good to see that up front and that this would have been the requirement for the 3 years. I don't think the RADF is really, I've looked at the guidelines, there's nothing in there, but I don't think this should be about recurrent funding. And I've looked at other councils and I think that our funding streams are a lot more generous. I'd like to see us reduce them and actually fund more people. I have a couple of questions. One is, are we looking at the quotes and actually having a really good look at what they're funding and whether you believe they're, and this isn't aimed at the Heart of Agnes, what it is actually funding, is that reasonable? If we were to look at outsourcing it, like what is the actual benefit for those artists? And I'm sure that you are, but I'd like to know a little bit more about that in terms of these, because some of them are fairly high.
Oh, it's fine, yep.
The committee members can be quite, I don't want to say ruthless because it seems really harsh, but they actually measure what an artist should be charging based on where they are at their life cycle, their development, their skills as well. Sometimes artists actually don't charge enough for the work that they're doing, and that's often the case. So there is definitely those discussions. We've got a couple of members, one particular member of the committee who sits on Arts Queensland, so sits at a really high level for looking at those grants as well. And I would say there's probably 3 in particular within the committee that are really all over the budget process and will question and break down that to try to understand that. And when we're approving or recommending the approval of projects, sometimes it's a line that's removed because we deem that that's actually not suitable. So it might be that partial funding that this part we believe is suitable, the rest of it doesn't fit as well. For that recurrent funding, there was conversation about maybe it should have been funded all as one at the very beginning rather than as 3 separate projects as well. However, that's not how it was done.
And can I just ask on that one though, so I've got a better, I suppose, understanding of the $50,000 for a time capsule. So it's been in 3 different sections. What is the actual end outcome of it? What will people see at the end of the 3-year investment?
This is the development of the actual documentary. So the first part of it was the piloting and consultation, scripting and engagement. And then the second part of it was actually collating that all together. And then this is now the final product. So it's the actual delivery of the documentary itself.
Sorry, and I'm just going to ask this, and I don't want to sound like I'm picking on this one. I've done a lot of videos and secured contractors for this, and some are documentaries, and I think the most expensive one I had was probably a fifth of this. So $50,000, I'm just asking, is that a reasonable amount to be paying for a documentary?
I think it's been assessed by merit on each application, the work involved in each stage. So it's hard to say a total value when you have had 3 separate applications. We can only really assess what's in front of us and decide whether that is fair or unfair. And back to the question of the budgeting side of things and the quotations, that project in particular, we actually align the project management fees and reduce them because we felt that they were inflated. These are the things that we're going through case by case, but we don't assess an entire project. It's been in stages. So
no, but should it be in stages? I'm saying, this is unusual. I haven't seen one like this before. And had it been proposed at the start and it was a $50,000 project, I asked the question, would we have funded it?
I guess if all of the work involved in it was lined out the way that it has, I can't say yes or no, but all we can say is what's been presented in front of us at the time of each application has been assessed against the guidelines and it has met that and the financial requirements. So it's difficult to say, but we have had projects that have been done in stages. There was a book that happened quite a while ago. I came in on the 3rd round of that, and I believe that was quite a significant, I don't know if you remember Councillor Churchill, quite a significant fund.
Can I ask how much about that might have been? Just for a documentary, 50,000 seems to be a lot of money, that's all. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
We can come back to you on that if you like.
I think that there's learnings. I think there was learnings for the committee about the staging with having 3 requests for a project and the overview that would have been beneficial at the beginning as well. And definitely some learnings. The other thing is this is a really strong application if you look at it in compared to other applications based on what the evidence is provided, the quotes, all of those things. It's actually really an airtight application. So this particular association is really great at putting in grant funding applications, which is something we've talked about in the past as well.
We've been there before, and is it about the quality of a grant application or actually what the benefit aligns with the RADF guidelines, I suppose? And I know this does contribute, and I don't want to be looking like I'm picking on this, but $50,000 for a documentary overall, and I'm wondering too, so in the last 2 years when you had the application, did you know there was another year coming along with another request for $19,000?
We wouldn't have known the total that it would be to complete the project, but we obviously knew that it was coming in stages. And I think probably the robust discussion around whether to fund or not to fund was the risk around not seeing it through to its finalisation. So I guess that's probably where it landed and how it landed. It was a very good application. The supporting documents were great. We discussed that the previous acquittals were also done to a really high standard as well. So it's that kind of thing where we've gotten this far now, do we just say no because it's going to cost this much to finish it, or do we score it based on what's in front of us and award it in that?
I get the situation you're in, but this one aside, there is potential for others then to be able to go, okay, if we do it this way, we're going to get more money. So I think I can't strongly urge enough that RADF have a really good look at this and make sure it's not recurrent funding. And the other one is, I was looking at one, and there was another one there maybe from William Dubois, who I know does a great job as well in the community, like the Heart of Gladstone, the Heart of Agnes. Can I just ask, is that for one workshop with children, or like when I was reading it said a workshop, so I'm just wondering, can you just explain that one for me as well?
I'll get it open for you.
I don't have the application notes in front of me, so I'll leave it to Flick.
Okay.
I've got it here.
I do, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, if it's for one, I'm just saying, it's, I get that these are artists and it gets them to explore and it passes on the knowledge and they deserve to be remunerated accordingly. But if it is one, then that does seem like, for me, a lot of money. If I was getting a contractor to do it and use the experience, I probably would be expecting to pay less than that, having got them in the past for my previous roles.
I think Flick finds that the other part of this was we, so everybody pre-scores as well, and we simply sat at a particular score and above to make, to consider the financial investment as well, because there were some that sat below that. So for the scoring, so let's say you scored below 10, we actually didn't invest as much time pulling those apart because of the scoring as we did for those that actually sat at the higher amount, because we knew we had half the amount of money than what was actually being requested as well.
I get it, and I understand
it's
everyone's
tricky.
doing a good job, and I know they're doing it with the best interest in there, but I think you've made a lot of inroads in this, and I'm seeing it's a lot better than it was, but I think this just highlights a couple of things that maybe do need looking moving forward. I'm not comfortable with the Heart of Agnes one, I'm going to say that now, but I do understand that it's been made with the best intentions of getting the project done. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, so I guess it's it's really difficult for us to be able to comment when we're not in the assessment panel. So I would like to see other people also contributing to projects, not just council always paying for the same. People, look, I don't know much about the project. I've hardly heard about it, so I couldn't tell you whether it provides any value or not. So, but I'm not in the assessment panel, or I haven't seen any acquittal. So, I have Councillor Cameron, then Davis, and then Patrick.
Thank you, Natalie. Look, I just these things are acquitted, aren't they?
Yes.
And the previous ones for the Heart
Yes.
of Agnes, they were successfully acquitted?
Yes.
Because if they weren't, they wouldn't have get another look at it. So that's all I need to say on that. They've been successfully acquitted, so.
Yeah, and I guess we can't tell people how to do their application, so it's up to them. Councillor Davis?
Thank you, Deputy. I've just got a follow-on question, I suppose, from Councillor Wagner with this Heart of Agnes. With the funding, does that then take it through to obviously screening, and where will it be available for people to see the documentary? That's my question.
We do have a note from the committee to make sure that it is accessible, and we also would like to, and we flagged this in round 2, the intellectual property rights. So, but there has been collaboration with the museum and quite a few community organisations, so it should be highly accessible.
So it won't actually be on any like TV channels or anything like that. It's not going that far. It's just
Not that we know of at this stage.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Patrick?
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. So under the RADF terms of reference and your guidelines, these have all met within your current terms of reference and guidelines?
Yep.
Yep. And so it probably, as Councillor Holzheimer has said, there's probably been some learnings about recurring funding, possibly. So because we are not part of the panel and assessing of this, could it just be noted from this boardroom that that could be a potential learning, and how the terms of reference and the guidelines may be looked upon or improved going in the future from these learnings, possibly?
Yeah, I think, anything is possible, but when we look at arts and culture projects, a lot of them do require research, piloting, scripting. Quite a bit goes into a final product a lot of the time. It's certainly not the first time we've seen stages. Potentially it could be that they give us some sort of an estimate on the full cost of the project, but sometimes that is not really known in the first stage.
They might never do it.
Yeah. So I feel like, yes, that could be a possibility, but it's also going to be a risk that those sorts of projects, and usually the ones with the research are the ones that are done really well. It's a risk of losing that.
And I'm no expert in this field, so I'm just listening to the boardroom, trying to articulate probably the feelings around this.
The concern.
But I have full confidence in the RADF committee and their terms of reference, and for them to look at what was highlighted today, and if necessary, considerations need to happen, then so be that.
No problem.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or comments? Councillor Churchill?
Happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Do I have a seconder? Mr. Mayor, would you like to second the motion? No? Yes or no?
Sure.
Yeah.
Happy doing both.
Get your name in the board.
That's okay. Okay. We have a mover in Councillor Churchill and a seconder in Councillor Burnett, the Mayor Mark Burnett. All in favour? Anyone against? Okay, thank you very much. That's carried. Thanks, Felicity. We don't have any more officers' reports. That's correct. We all... Yep, sorry.
Thanks, Felicity.
As Councillor
Always awkward
McClintock
ones,
makes
the
his
bad
way
ones.
back, we will go on to G5, Councillor reports. May I just go around the room? If Councillor McClintock, do you have any councillor reports?
Nope.
Councillor Wagner?
No, thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of, the Mayor has mentioned a lot of things in his report, which a lot of us attended. That was been great. Councillor Churchill?
Yeah, just two, if you wouldn't mind. Thanks,
Yep.
Madam Chair. And I know Mayor Matt mentioned it earlier, but Councillor Patrick and I had the opportunity to officially open the hookup this year, and I wanted to make a couple of points for the 3 days that many of us were able to attend there. Is that, and I just express our greatest appreciation to the President Shelton Hayward and all of the committee who put their hand up to do this one in 2026. This is the 31st year, and Council has been a significant long-time supporter of the project, But it's not only just about us and the sponsorship, it's everybody that gets involved, and I'm sure that we can now recognise that after 31 years, this is not just only a signature event, it's become a generational tradition. When we see grandfathers with their sons and daughters, and now their sons and daughters actively participating, and well over 3,000 registrations, so congratulations to the wonderful committee. And my final point, I suppose, is that our contribution to it is a commitment to understanding the variety of benefits that come into our community for our small businesses, and showcasing what our region actually has, because not everybody goes fishing, but they catch up. And when you consider the people that come from other parts of predominantly central Queensland and a couple of interstaters as well, they go away as great advocates and ambassadors as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a great weekend, great weather. Sort of, I guess. Yeah, maybe not for boats. But I think it could have been worse, because it was about to rain a few times, but it didn't. So, yes. Councillor Davis?
No, nothing.
Councillor Patrick?
Yes, I do, Madam Deputy Mayor. Councillor Churchill and I, it was a very busy time at the Gladstone Regional Art Gallery and Museum over the weekend. We had the pleasure of welcoming Simon Wright, the Assistant Director of Learning and Public Engagement at the GOMA and for Queensland Arts to open Looking Out, Looking In, which is a fantastic exhibition which was obviously launched on Saturday. It's about self-portrait and many ways artists interpret how they see others and themselves. Of note, which is really, really exciting, the exhibition actually features one of the currently named, which happened on Friday night, I believe, one of the 2026 Archibald Prize finalists. So one of the pizzas, not the finalist, but one of the artists has a piece in our art gallery that's currently being exhibited. So that's a really very special opportunity for our residents to go and have a look at that artwork. Also, we had Sayaki Children's Day and Intercity Images, which was celebrating yearly, but also this year is very special, celebrating our 30 years of friendship. The Intercity Images this year received 62 entries with 15 photographers selected for exhibition that will go to Sayaki City, and we have also received their photos, which are currently now on display in our art gallery. This is the images capture everyday life across our Gladstone region and highlight the shared stories and connect our communities, even though we are separated by 6,600 kilometres of ocean or land too. We also have, also being exhibitioned at our art gallery is the Australia Day Primary School Art Exchange. That's also being displayed down there and celebrated. And on Saturday was the Sayaki Children's Fun Day, or Family Fun Day as well. So there was lots and lots of people interacting with lots of activities happening. And a big shout out to the Sayaki City committee who volunteered their times to engage with our community in those wonderful activities. It was a really beautiful, fun and joyful day at our art gallery. And just a big shout out to everyone that came along, but also to the staff who worked tirelessly in bringing these types of exhibitions and exhibitions and artwork to our community, and the volunteers. Yeah, very big very important to mention our volunteers. So, yeah, and the big kids, yes. So that's my report done. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Holzheimer?
No, I barely know what day it is at the moment, except it's Tuesday and I need to be
Yeah.
here, so no idea.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I'm happy to share my calendar if anyone wants to send me a message. There's a lot of things happening all the time in our region, so we do our best to attend as much as possible, and I think we work really well to make sure there's one of us at as many events as possible. So thank you everyone for your work. Councillor Burnett, Mayor, is there anything you want to say before we close? Oh, well, there's no urgent business, no notices of... Oh, Councillor Cameron, sorry.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so sorry about that.
That's all right, nothing to report.
Okay, thank you very much. I would have trusted that you would have told me
I
if
would have
there was...
absolutely.
Yes, thank you, and I apologise for that. There's no urgent business or notice of motion or confidential items. Would you like to close the meeting, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. The meeting closes at 2:08.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you very much. We'll close the meeting there and have a wonderful Tuesday.